some Senate Republicans do not sound like they're on board with this Gates move. Lisa Murkowski said she doesn't think it's a serious nomination. Joni Ernst said he has his work cut out for him. Even if Donald Trump wants to appoint him during recess, the Senate would still have to agree to it. What are the chances Gates actually becomes AG?
Well, what we heard today was a lot of resistance from what I would call sort of the centrist Republicans in the Senate. And the people who take their jobs seriously, they don't view Gates as a serious contender to be AG. They think he's too extreme, too much of a bomb thrower. They think the ethics allegations against him are too damaging. They would like to see somebody with a more established set of credentials be put forth as Attorney General. But how many of those Republicans are there left in the Senate who would be willing to stand up to Donald Trump and oppose this nomination? We can probably think of 4 or 5. That's probably all you would need to stop the nomination. But can their arms be twisted? We already saw, you played a clip of Markwayne Mullin, who was harshly critical of Matt Gaetz only a few months ago, and then today was saying that he would back Donald Trump's choice. So if a few arms can be twisted, perhaps they can bend the Senate to their will and get Matt Gaetz in there.
But that's kind of the thing. How many Senate Republicans are willing to stand up to Donald Trump, and how often? Because Matt Gaetz is not the only questionable nomination. Is it possible that Donald Trump is just nominating Gaetz as a distraction to make it easier to get them to roll over on his other nominees? Carlos, what do you think?
Steph, I really think there's plenty of evidence here backing the theory that this was a way to help Gaetz exit the stage gracefully. We know that this investigation was going to be made public on Friday. By leaving the Congress, it ends immediately. I mean, maybe something will leak, but the committee's not supposed to do that, so we'll have to wait and see. But I highly doubt, I'm not in the predictions business, but in this case, I'm willing to bet a lot of money that Matt Gaetz will not be confirmed as Attorney General, and that there might be something going on behind the scenes here to help him bow out. When this was first announced, some House Republicans that I was in touch with were shocked. Later in the day, they were happy that Matt Gaetz had resigned from the Congress, and most Republicans on the Hill I have talked to think there's little chance that he will be confirmed.
But then, Luke, what happens to him, right? So Gaetz gets nominated. Let's say it doesn't go through. He's no longer a member of Congress. Is he out of a job in Trump's camp but hasn't been humiliated by the ethics report coming out?
That is a popular theory that is going around right now, that in order to avoid this damning ethics report being released, that this nomination was a face-saving maneuver by Donald Trump in coordination with Gaetz. He can resign, say he was ascending to be Attorney General, but his nomination got stopped by establishment or deep state actors, and then withdraw the nomination, and then the ethics report never comes out. I don't know whether I believe that or not. That's something that a lot of, like Carlos said, House Republicans believe right now and are circulating, that given the reporting that's come out about the potential release of this ethics report. But then what does that mean for Gaetz? Does he get a different position in the administration that doesn't require Senate confirmation, that doesn't require the type of vetting that Attorney General would require? That's a big question mark. I don't know exactly what's happening now. All we truly know is that Donald Trump has said he wants him to be the next Attorney General, and that has caused a lot of concern on the Hill.
Maybe everybody set their hair on fire, and this is just a big reputation saver for Matt Gaetz. And while he won't get to be Attorney General, he won't get to be a member of Congress, Trump will find something for him to do without the world knowing what was ever in that report. Ryan, I know you've got reporting from inside the Justice Department. Let's talk about what Matt Gaetz has done before, right? He defended January 6th, right? We've been talking about he was the subject of another federal investigation. So what are people inside the DOJ saying? This is the highest role within their branch.
Yeah, it's definitely a five-alarm fire within DOJ if this were to go through. Sort of, there's a lot of people not believing that this was a real thing when it happened this afternoon. Couldn't possibly be true. It just sounds so out of crazy land that they didn't believe it could possibly be in the cards. But, here we are. And, I think that one thing that really is kind of overlooked a little bit about is this just the role that he's played in the January 6th issue altogether, right? On the floor of the House on January 6th itself, he spread some nonsense thing that was Antifa, actually, right? So he started this propaganda from the very get-go, and he actually mentioned that he may have on Twitter that he may have been, in contact with Donald Trump during the attack itself, right? So from the very beginning, and then he sort of painted this idea of that these January 6th defendants as political prisoners. He visited the prison. He called for the release of the tape. That was the tapes from January 6th. That was a big part of his effort to sort of oust Kevin McCarthy. And so he's been all in on January 6th from the beginning, first trying to spread propaganda, claim that it wasn't actually Donald Trump supporters who were just believing his lies about the 2020 election, and then, making them into sort of political prisoners and championing their cause and going all the way down and then, suggesting that this was some sort of Fedsurrection setup. So he's been all over the map on this, but really for him, it's just about like spinning this narrative. So I think, for January 6 cases in particular, this would be a pretty devastating pick, because I think he would just do whatever Donald Trump wants him to do and sort of gut those cases altogether. And there are a lot of people who did very violent acts that day, and the question is whether or not they're going to ultimately be pardoned or what's going to happen to them.
Well, let's go back in time, Carlos. Earlier, just a moment ago, we showed a clip from Senator Mullen. He mentioned his differences with Gates. That is very basic, very kind, not too detailed. But let's share some actual details of what he has said in the past about his colleague.
There's a reason why no one in the conference came and defended him, because we had all seen the videos he was showing on the House floor that all of us had walked away of the girls that he had slept with. He'd brag about how he would crush ED medicine and chase it with an energy drink so he could go all night.
Go all night. Can you help us here, Carlos? You worked with all of these guys. What is going through their heads now, today, versus months ago, years ago, when they knew who this man was and were happy or willing to tell the American people? Somehow they've forgotten?
Well, Steph, here we go again. We've seen this before, where House, Senate Republicans say certain things privately, or in some cases, like you just showed, publicly, before Donald Trump's in power. And then once Donald Trump comes in, I mean, the main priority for them is to show absolute loyalty to Trump. Look, I know Markwayne Mullin. I served with him. I know that he doesn't think Matt Gaetz would make a good attorney general. I know that if he could vote in a vacuum, he would not vote to confirm Matt Gaetz. But you hear him being careful. Now, he did condition later in that clip, because I was watching earlier, he said that Gaetz does have to find a way to get confirmed by the Senate. So I don't think Mullin necessarily committed to supporting Gaetz, but certainly you wish that these Republicans could be more honest and open about what they really think and feel. And in some cases, we don't even have to speculate, because we've heard them. You just played the clip.
If he could vote in a vacuum, kind of like the way they elected John Thune. Joyce, I actually want to play a little bit of what Matt Gaetz has said a few years ago about the Department of Justice and other agencies, because this matters.
I don't care if it takes every second of our time and every ounce of our energy. We either get this government back on our side, or we defund and get rid of, abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF, DOJ, every last one of them, if they do not come to heel. And I don't think it's too much to ask.
Come to heel like dogs. Joyce, what does that say? What does that tell us, that the choice of Gaetz? What does it tell us about how Donald Trump plans to use the DOJ?
Yeah, so I guarantee you that there are not very many federal prosecutors sitting out there across the country, if any, who ever believed that their job involves coming to heel, who believe anything other than the fact that their loyalty is to the Constitution and to the people of the United States. And so this is, I think you were right, Steph, when you said people are hair on fire. This is an outrage pick by Donald Trump, and he simply wants to get everyone all spun up. It's clear that Gates is not qualified to be the Attorney General of the United States. This is somebody who practiced law for a few years before going off into politics. Never been a prosecutor in state court, let alone in federal court. Simply unqualified, full stop. The conversation should end right there. And so I think we know that what this means, Donald Trump intends to do with the Justice Department, whether it's Gates or somebody else, he intends for it to be a wholly owned subsidiary of the White House. There won't be the traditional independence that has existed that permits the Justice Department to engage in criminal prosecutions and civil investigations without the interference of the White House. That's the hallmark of our justice system. It's what keeps us a democracy, prevents us from being a banana republic. Presidents can't use the criminal justice process to reward their friends or to punish their enemies. Donald Trump wants to put an end to that.